Welcome, everyone. Thank you for coming. We're excited to have Anne Friedman from Planet Word Museum here. I just wanted to cover a few little housekeeping things and then turn it over to Louise Kenny, our special events chair. Just a few technical things. The questions should be put into the Q&A. In your menu, just click on Q&A and you can type on questions, and there's going to be plenty of time at the end of the presentation for Anne to answer any questions you might have. You also have the option to do closed captioning. If you look on your Zoom menu, there's an option for live transcript, so you can turn on captioning if you need to. And also, we would really appreciate when you leave the webinar to just fill out a really brief survey. It's really useful for us. And now I'm going to turn it over to Louise Kenny, who will talk about some things coming up with Encore Learning and then introduce Anne.
Thank you, Patty. So hi, everybody. You've seen me before. I'm on the special events team here at Encore Learning. We're thrilled to have you. We're thrilled to have Anne today. I've been to her Planet Word Museum, and I highly recommend it. It's just a great, fun place to go yourself, and then certainly to bring guests. But before we get into Anne's presentation, I did want to remind you about a few things coming up. We have a virtual tour of the American Visionary Art Museum in Baltimore coming up on Thursday, June 18th. It is a virtual presentation, but you do need to sign up because it's a members-only presentation. Then on July 21st, we have a presentation, The U.S. versus Europe, What Has Changed, with a speaker who lives in Europe really for 30 years and has really on-the-ground perspectives on both the people, the ordinary people, and then also the governments and what has changed. And then a highlight of our summer is we're having a Take Me Out to the Ball Game night for Encore Learning on August 21st. Tom Kilfoyle and our group has arranged this. We have a section in the shade. We are asking you to purchase your tickets before July 15th. The Nats will be playing the Mets that night. So if you're from the New York area, you might have particular interest in going to it. So that's what's coming up. I would like to introduce Anne Friedman, who's with us today. Anne is the founder and CEO of Planet Word and the developer of the idea behind the restoration of the Franklin School, which is the home of the museum, and how apropos to have a historic building that's also a school. She was a beginning reading and writing teacher in Montgomery County, Maryland, for 9 years until she retired in 2011. From 2010 to 2014, she served as the chair of the board of SEED Foundation, SEED, parent body of the only U.S. public inner-city college prep boarding school, where she remains a board member. She's a director of the American Alliance of Museums and serves on the board of the Aspen Music Festival and School. She is the trustee of the Downtown DC Foundation. She graduated from Stanford University and earned a master's degree from the London School of Economics and American University. She's married to Thomas Friedman, who, as you probably know, is a significant writer with the New York Times. She's also the proud mother of two women, two daughters. One is in California, in the San Francisco area, and that daughter founded a school out there, an innovative school called I have the name of it here. Red something, and you can clarify.
Red Bridge.
Red Bridge. That's an innovative school in San Francisco, and her other daughter works for NPR here in Maryland. So she also said to remind everybody that she is the proud grandmother of three grandchildren, three little toddlers. So that's a major accomplishment in her life to be a grandmother. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Anne Friedman. Anne?
Thank you. Thank you so much for inviting me to speak to you today. I hope that my talk will give you an insight into my personal journey of discovery and my evolution from being a teacher to a museum CEO. And it will also help inform you about the reasons that I decided to create a museum of words and language in the first place. To those of you who haven't visited Planet Word yet, it's probably not what most people think of when they hear the term museum, because it doesn't have a collection and it doesn't have labels or exhibits or cases or displays. Rather, it's a participatory museum, a voice-activated museum, an experiential museum, a 21st century kind of museum. Here's a short video which we made during our virtual grand opening back in 2020 in the midst of COVID. And it'll give you a taste of what this kind of museum experience is like. So roll the video.
Hello, and welcome to Planet Word. Step up to the mic and say hello.
Hello. Hello. Yo. Hi there.
You're standing in front of about 1,000 words. And that's not even 1% of the entire English language.
Adventures in Wonderland have captivated audiences for generations. Off with their heads! Oh dear, I shall be late!
In this best-selling new kind of cookbook, Chef Samin Nasrat has taken the sprawling, daunting, multicultural subject we call cooking.
Everything's a wheel, turning and turning, never stopping.
The frogs is part of it, and the bugs, and the fish, and the wood thrush, too, and people.
All this wordplay gives the song an unpredictable vibe, exactly like a schoolyard where everybody is up to something.
What did the tailor think of her new job? It was so-so.
No.
Oh, come
that
on,
was not
come on,
close
come
to
on.
funny.
A little laugh.
Tonight, there is not a liberal America and a conservative America.
There is the United States of America.
If you use words to attack, you're turning words into a weapon. It's easy to forget about how much power words hold.
Salam alaikum.
Xin chào.
Merhaba.
Hello. Hola. I speak Arabic.
I speak Icelandic.
I speak Amharic.
Hindi. Korean.
Hawaiian.
Farsi. And I speak Hebrew.
Shalom.
Shalom. I'm not. In Korean, we have 7 different levels of respect. Navajo has a totally different...
Our culture is one of the oldest in the world.
Zulu is a click language.
My great-grandpa was the last speaker, but our language lives on in the names of places around D.C.
Thank you for learning about my language.
To say goodbye, we say Slonlath. Ciao.
Agul.
Bless. Hagoene. Paalam.
Thank you. I hope that gives you a little taste of what the museum is like, and then I will describe more of the galleries as we go along in my talk. So, question, how did I end up a museum founder? Why did I leave my comfort zone as a wife and teacher and avidly bad golfer to create an untested concept for a newfangled museum. Believe it or not, there's actually a good explanation. You see, after having lived for a decade in two strife-ridden cities, Beirut and Jerusalem, I vowed that when I moved back to the United States, I'd do something to create the community that those two cities so desperately lacked. For me, that first led to becoming a public school teacher. When I retired after having taught fifth grade and then beginning reading and writing for 9 years, I wasn't ready to leave the literacy field. I believed that literacy was the key to every good outcome in American life. That being a good reader was an important key to success, to high school graduation, to college enrollment, to career success, and to democracy too. Because reading builds empathy. It widens one's worldview. It teaches tolerance and understanding. It develops critical thinking skills. It builds vocabulary and undergirds all the ways we become informed voters and citizens. But unfortunately, as we all know, reading is becoming less and less of a habit nowadays. Reading test scores are declining, and newspapers and magazines are disappearing. So I wondered, what could I do to help reverse those negative trends and create the nation of readers that I thought we needed? But the last thing I ever imagined was that I should build a museum to accomplish that goal. But then in 2012, I read a New York Times article about a brand new museum in New York City that was bringing the abstract concepts of math to life with technology and interactive exhibits, but without a collection of artifacts. That gave me my answer. I could create a museum that would bring words and language to life. And as I talked about my idea, a lot of people responded enthusiastically. So with that little kernel of an idea, I began planning what should be in a museum about words and language. I began building a board, doing fundraising, interviewing museum designers, hiring a staff, and looking for a home for it in Washington, D.C. Why Washington? Well, I guess number one, I live here, but also I couldn't believe that in a city full of world-class encyclopedic museums, not one was dedicated to language, our human superpower, and something that touches every single person on the planet. Not to mention, we live in a country founded on a written constitution, and we've got stirring words inscribed in the granite and marble walls of our national monuments. Next slide. There's one example. So wouldn't it be natural to have a museum dedicated to words and their power right here in Washington? Determined that this new museum should exist, I began looking for a location, mostly commercial buildings, because when I envisioned a place that would encourage people to love reading books, words, and language, ironically, the last place I wanted to house it was in an old school building. First of all, I didn't want potential visitors to think visiting Planet Word would be like going to school. School hadn't worked for everyone, and it surely hadn't reversed the downward trends in reading. There were just so many ways for kids and adults to entertain themselves now. meaning less time for reading. And reading can be hard work, I had to admit. So it was an informal education place, a museum. That was what I wanted to found and not emphasize education and school. Second, I wanted to use cutting edge technology to grab people's attention, to sort of suck people in to enjoying words in spite of themselves. That meant that housing the museum in a former school building was not exactly the first place that came to mind. But in 2017, urged on by the mayor's real estate advisor, I toured the abandoned Franklin School built in 1869. And I have to tell you that tour merely reinforced my wariness. Like when I saw yellow caution tape strung across the main stairs because they weren't safe for us to climb. Or when I saw a hole in the floor where you could look down from one floor and see all the way through to the floor beneath you. Not to mention the idea of becoming a real estate developer of a historic building at age 64 also seemed sort of crazy. But the real estate department thought otherwise. They thought locating a museum devoted to words and language inside a former school was a match made in heaven. So they kept urging me to try to reconsider the Franklin School as a home for Planet Word. I did some research into the building's history. I learned that the school had been designated a National Historic Landmark 2 times over because of its striking red brick architecture, its cast iron arches, its tall windows, and its cupola-topped air shafts. But also because in 1880, Alexander Graham Bell, the inventor of the telephone, had sent a message using light waves from L Street to a colleague located at the Franklin School. And they successfully sent a message to each other. They called it a photophone message. And that was the first instance of a message being sent without wires. So the Franklin School is considered the birthplace of wireless. I have a slide for that. And here is the school today. Bell had presciently predicted that one day his invention of the photophone, that wireless technique, would be more important than his invention of the telephone. So here in one building, in the heart of downtown DC, was a marriage of education and telecommunications, just what I hoped to bring together in the new museum's exhibits. So, as you've probably guessed by now, I became more positively inclined toward taking on the Franklin School as a home for Planet Word. And then, get this, when I learned that Frances Hodgson Burnett, the author of my all-time favorite children's book, The Secret Garden, had lived just a block away for a time, I felt like locating Planet Word at the Franklin School was beshert, was fated. And so what you see behind me, if you can see on the Zoom, behind me on the wall, is my office wall, and it features wallpaper that I had custom made. It's got, it's made up of 12 pages from The Secret Garden, and they're interspersed with pages from an encyclopedia of flower meanings. So we really have honored Frances Hodgson Burnett and the Secret Garden in Planet Word. I rationalized the crazy decision to take on restoring the Franklin School by telling myself, if the museum was a flop, at least I'd have the satisfaction of knowing I'd saved a beautiful, historically significant building for another 150 years. And it would also help me achieve that post-Beirut vow that I'd made to create community. A restored Franklin School would help at least a little bit make that corner of DC become attractive and alive after 10 years of declining. So, to make a long story short, in early 2018, the district awarded me a 99-year lease for $10 a year in return for restoring the building. This meant working with 4 historic preservation organizations that would have to unanimously approve any restoration plan. And it meant I'd need to install modern heating and cooling and elevators and wiring to accommodate the high-tech exhibits and to meet modern safety and environmental standards. So doing all that within the restrictions laid down by historic preservation. Now, think back to the video that you saw at the very beginning of my presentation. You saw a sparkling interior that visitors encountered at our grand opening on October 22nd, 2020. And now I want you to take a look at some slides of the building as it looked when we took over in 2018. Next 3 slides. So it was in pretty bad shape, as you can see. Most of that paint flaking was full of lead. And so we had the hazmat team in here clearing out the space before we could do any restoration for about 3 months. And, one time I was visiting the building and it was actually raining inside. But over a 2.5-year period, we turned that rundown interior into one that shines, but still bears the imprint of the architect's vision of how beautiful a public school should be. The architect, Adolf Kloos, designed several other well-known red brick buildings in DC, including Arts and Industries, Eastern Market, and many other schools. He was a German immigrant and a friend of Karl Marx, and he thought that poor children should be able to go to a school that was as nice as rich kids. And he also believed that lots of air circulation and light were beneficial to learning, which we know to be true. Thus, we have high ceilings and tall windows and brick turrets that to this day help bring fresh air into the distinguished building that we now call home to Planet Word. Distinguishing the museum experience itself was just as important to me. I wanted to make sure that around every corner, visitors would be surprised and delighted. We established 6 core values. Next slide. And they are that every experience in the museum should be some combination of fun, playful, unexpected, meaningful, motivational, and inclusive. And we hold true to those core values to this day in every decision we make, whether that's programming or the galleries themselves or anything that we do. We want to make sure they meet these core values. And we also established target outcomes for visitors. We wanted to make sure that when a visitor exited Planet Word, they would have read a little, written a little, spoken, and listened. 4 components of the language arts, and our formal name is the Museum of Language Arts. And we wanted to guarantee that no matter what you like to do with words, you'll find something to enjoy inside Planet Word. And I should add that although our mission is to renew and inspire a love of words and reading, that doesn't mean that we think the only road to reading is through books. It could be through singing or poetry or telling jokes or giving speeches or writing advertising copy. Anything that you can do with words, because we just want to find that hook that will engage our visitors with words and maybe eventually lead them to reading. The museum also showcases a small number of sculptures and paintings, art that uses words, because that might be the hook that catches people's attention inside Planet Word. Next slide. And here's an example of a sculpture by Jaume Plensa, where he has used an script woven in stainless steel to make basically a self-portrait. And then, next slide. When you come in, you see our speaking willow tree. And it's a motion-activated sculpture. So when visitors walk under the branches, they trigger a murmur of 364 languages and twinkling LED lights. So even from their first step through the museum gates, visitors are confronted by a mix of language and technology, a taste of what is to come. Next slide. Then they step into our lobby and walk across a terrazzo floor that's embedded with symbols from written script developed through history, from cave art to letters we use in writing today. The symbols include letters from Indo-European languages and ideographs from Asian languages, because Planet Word is a relatively small museum at 51,000 total square feet. And it houses a really big topic, words and language. So we have to use every available space, including the floor as shown here, to display content. Our restroom walls are tiled with words for toilet or where's the bathroom in many languages. Next slide. Here's an example. Our storage lockers display the International Phonetic Alphabet. Next slide. And even our elevator cabins display content. Next slide. So that's the interior of one of our elevators. And all the books whose jackets are facing out come to life in our library, which I'll tell you about in a minute. So now let's take a tour. The typical visitor's journey begins on the 3rd floor with the First Words Gallery about early childhood language acquisition. Next slide. Everything in the museum is participatory except this first gallery where you just watch and smile as you see babies and toddlers gain language. But otherwise, the whole museum is interactive in some way or another. There in this first gallery, you'll see home videos of children reaching the milestones of language acquisition. These are organized in salon style. They're frames around videos, which is a motif that we use throughout Planet Word. Important words are highlighted and underlined in the captioning, and everything is either captioned or signed throughout the museum, so it's accessible to the deaf. From there, visitors are guided to our word wall gallery, essentially the centerpiece of the museum. It is a 13-minute sound and light, voice-activated experience called Where Do Words Come From? It's all about the etymology of words in the English language. Next slide. There you can see a picture of the word wall. Here, visitors learn about the different ways that words have entered the English language. Sometimes from war and conquest, sometimes from borrowing from other languages, or sometimes because we make up words with onomatopoeia, or we invent words. The word wall is built out of nearly 1,000 three-dimensional words. They stretch 40 feet wide and 22.5 feet tall. Now I'm going to show you an example of how we tell the etymology of the word burrito. Next slide with the video.
Burrito. That delicious Mexican dish comes from the Spanish word for donkey, which is burro. Some people say it's because burritos look like a rolled up bundle you might see on the back of a donkey. We borrowed hundreds of words from Spanish.
That's just a little taste of how the word wall works. But you see the picture of the burro was projected onto the word wall, and we have a narration going on, which is very lively and fun to listen to for everybody. Our second major gallery on the third floor is about the diversity of the world's languages. The centerpiece of the fresco-lined Great Hall, which boasts a 22-foot ceiling and 14-foot tall windows, is a 12-foot diameter globe covered with 5,600 LED lights. Next slide. So there you can see the Great Hall and the globe. The globe is surrounded by 15 iPads that each feature our 30 language ambassadors. Next slide. Here's a picture of our language ambassador from Hawaii who tells 2 little mini lessons about Hawaiian. The languages on the iPads represent tonal languages like from Chinese languages, click languages, endangered, indigenous languages, as well as the most commonly used ones like Spanish and French and German. And we also have languages representing the largest immigrant communities in Washington. Each language was chosen because of its importance or its unique characteristics that will be fun for visitors to learn and try to say. At the end of each mini lesson, the globe lights up with a design related to that lesson. Here's the globe lighting up with 2 champagne glasses clinking. demonstrating a lesson about the toast l'chaim and the guttural chet sound in Hebrew. Next slide. Also, something really cool about the globe is that at the turn of a key, the globe can fold up. Next slide. And it can be raised to the ceiling so we can remove the iPads and thereby create a big entertaining space, great for weddings or big meetings and other special occasions. Similarly, on the 4th floor, which once was an unusable attic, next slide, we reinforced the floor with steel beams. We cleaned up the pigeon droppings, and we created another event space under the original oak rafters and the mansard roof. It has a terrace and a great view of the neighboring renovated Franklin Park. So why is this important? Planet Word is a free museum. So it's really important to have these spaces to rent out for events. It's become a major source of revenue for us. Next slide. So there you can see someone having a wedding in the mansard room. Our 2nd floor is devoted to creativity and what you can do with your words. The main gallery here is our Schwartzman Family Library. Next slide. Where we will soon be introducing our 100th book to our unique story table experience. And in this gallery, books really do come to life. And that was my original direction to the museum designers. I want a place where words and language come to life. And they really do in the library, as you will see. And maybe you saw in our introductory video that little clip of Alice in Wonderland coming to life. And next slide, please. So that wasn't the slide I thought it would be, but that's okay. The books in the library represent a range of genres: fiction, nonfiction, biographies, historical fiction, books in verse, and even a cookbook. There are books for all different age readers. The books come alive when a visitor places a book in a special holder, which triggers animation, a narrative, and sound effects. The narrator reads a text that's designed to describe the book in a compelling way in order to make you want to read the book. So they're not reading the plot or giving away the story, but just enough that you might say, I'd really like to read that book. Or I remember that book from 20 years ago. Maybe I'll read it again. Sometimes the narration is by the author. Sometimes it's by a voice actor. And sometimes it's by someone who just loved the book. The library gallery has a hidden poetry nook, and that's what you're seeing these two gentlemen coming out of. And inside the poetry nook, you can listen to 50 fabulous poems that loop continuously. The poems should appeal to all ages, and they run the gamut from Beowulf to Shakespeare to Shel Silverstein and Judith Bjorst. The Poetry Nook is contemplative and designed for visitors to just relax and be surrounded by the sounds of language, because I believe that poetry is meant to be heard. And also, set into the walls of the library gallery, visitors can discover 9 gold frames hiding voice-activated dioramas, like this one that you'll see that shows a passage from Anne of Green Gables. Next slide. So when a visitor reads the words on a plaque on the gold frame, it triggers the diorama to light up and you hear that passage being read. So it's very cool. We have 9 dioramas. They're all totally different. 9 different artists designed them. Also on the second floor are galleries devoted to songwriting, humor writing, poetry, oratory, and vocabulary building. Each experience is participatory and uses technology to bring the subject to life in a fun, unique way. Here's what happens in our Word Worlds gallery, where visitors paint a panoramic backdrop with a smart brush. They dip their brush into a word palette instead of a paint palette, and then they see the walls transform around them, which shows what the definition of the word must be. Next slide. Next slide. So this is our Word Worlds gallery with paint brushes, and you saw a little bit of what happens in our introductory video. So if you took a brush and dipped it into autumnal and started painting, everything would transform to fall colors and fall scenery. Our songwriting gallery is a karaoke style lounge with live mics. Next slide. Visitors read the lyrics on a screen, as well as notes about the rhyming techniques that the songwriter used. The final 2 galleries are on the first floor, and they're dedicated to the power of words and language to sell goods or ideas. Visitors learn the techniques of advertising copywriting and linguistic concepts such as code switching, dialects, taboo language, and forensic linguistics, but always in an active, participatory way. Next slide. Here's what the gallery looks like. It was designed to be sort of like a media spiral, and the ads shown on the spiral move very slowly past you. All of these topics are what I expected to bring to life at the Word Museum I originally envisioned. But little did we know when we started planning that words themselves would become the news. By the time we opened in 2020, the news was full of stories about myths and disinformation, about alternative facts and lies versus spin, about slurs and name-calling, about the limits of free speech and cancel culture, about fake media and truth. People debated whether they had seen a riot or an insurrection, and what the definition of a hero was. Words dominated our national conversation. So we wanted Planet Word to be part of that important conversation. So I think Planet Word has become more relevant as time has passed. I like to think that it's a museum whose time has come. If anything is going to repair the current deep divisions that are rending our country, it is being gentler and kinder with our words and speech. If anything is going to counterbalance misinformation and deep fakes amplified by technology and bad actors, it's showing people how to navigate our world through reading and critical thinking and assessing evidence. We have exhibits on all those topics. In addition, we have put together a robust series of speakers to address these important topics. And not forgetting our core values of being fun and playful, we've also scheduled programs that show the fun you can have with words. Like last week's The Crossword Show, which combines madcap, zany comedy and crossword puzzle solving. It sold out for the third year in a row, showing us that there is a big DC audience for word-related programs and word games. And one Wednesday a month, we stay open late for people who just want to play word games and try out our puzzle escape room, which we call Lexicon Lane. We also have frequent film screenings on word-related subjects and a series of programs on how to have hard conversations and use your words civilly. We have one of those programs just tonight at 6 o'clock with Professor Michael Sandel from Harvard. If these programs sound interesting, please sign up and join us. To find out about our upcoming events and speakers, visit our website at www.planetword.org or sign up for our newsletter on our website. The newsletter will give you all the details about everything going on at the museum. And one especially important series that we've had for the past 2 years has been about the science of reading and best practices in teaching reading. With the help of our journalist in residence, Emily Hanford, the award-winning creator of the podcast Sold a Story, we have brought in national and international experts to speak about best practices in teaching reading. This is so crucial because it's our children, and if our children don't graduate from 3rd grade reading proficiently, it's much less likely that they'll have the skills and knowledge they need to thrive in the 21st century. So by disseminating best practices in teaching reading, we hope it will help create the nation of readers our democracy needs to thrive. I hope that we are helping move the country, or at least our thousands of visitors, in that direction by letting everyone know that words matter, and by raising awareness of the fun, beauty, and power of words to shape our lives and our relations with our fellow citizens. We think it's critical work. In closing, I'd like to share these beautifully written words that echo my belief in the importance of reading and writing. They are from an essay by the author Nicole Krauss that appeared in the Washington Post on May 22nd. She wrote, "In my lifetime, I have watched the demolition of the capacity to read and engage with books, not just of our children, who have been the unwitting guinea pigs of growing up inside a cell phone, but among all of us human beings. We have lost not just our ability to concentrate on deciphering long passages of written language. We have, I believe, begun to lose our attachment to the meaning of words and sentences, which we once trusted to carry the precious freight of communicating who we are to ourselves and to each other. The blatantly, proudly senseless speech of our current leaders is not the cause. It is merely the most extravagant example of what happens when an entire culture, increasingly the monoculture of the world, gives up on and ceases to be capable of the struggle to funnel meaning into language, to translate themselves, their thoughts, and their words into words that others can read and share. Writing and reading are not effortless, but without that effort, we will slide deeper and deeper into darkness, violence, diminished freedom for all, and a diminished state of human being. Thank you so much for listening. I hope to greet you in person someday at Planet Word, and I'd be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Anne, thank you very much. You'll get a chance to see me tonight and meet me in person because based on our when we met for the tech rehearsal, you talked about what was happening tonight. And I immediately went on your website, immediately bought tickets, and we'll be there at 6 o'clock.
Thank you.
So thank you. I remind everybody to use the Q&A tool here rather than chat to ask questions, and we will move through the questions to Anne. And already 2 questions have come in. Are presentations virtual as well? And maybe that's to us because we have recorded this. But you're talking about, can I ask Laura to clarify this? Are you talking about presentations at Planet Word? Encore Learning would like to answer this question.
We do record almost all of our programs now, and they generally end up on our YouTube channel.
Oh, okay. Good. Thank you. Thank you. Ellen asked the question, I've been to Planet Word twice, so here's your fan club here. What do you charge for repeat visits?
Well, we're a free museum. We do ask for a voluntary donation, but there's no set cost. So people come in and pay nothing, or they pay what they want, but there is no charge for a repeat visit, not the first time and not the 100th time.
And I believe they wanted to know what would be changed in the museum for repeat visitors.
Oh, not charged. I thought, what would be charged? Well, we're adding content all the time, and it won't be so obvious, maybe, but because we have so much content, there's like no way that if you've been once or twice that you would have seen all the 79 books that come to life or tried all 23 songs in our karaoke gallery or listened to all 50 poems or, and plus we have about 25 of those beacons where you can take a deep dive into content. And there's just no way that anybody would have the stamina or the time to experience all of those in one visit and maybe not in 6 visits. So, but it won't be totally different, but also because we are voice activated, like with the word wall, depending on who is there in the audience, it's the words that they voice that determine what happens on the word wall. So there are things that you wouldn't hear on your first visit that you would hear maybe on a second visit because somebody chose to say something different that the voice recognition software picks up. We have 28 languages and 2 signed languages in our spoken world gallery. There's no way that you would experience all of them the first time. So
Mary asks, how do you think through the process of coming up with such interesting exhibits?
Well, when I started out, I made a list of like 200 ideas that should be included in a museum about words and language. And one help I had was I went to Cambridge Encyclopedia of Language, edited by one of our advisory board members. And I went and I wrote down every subject heading and thought about, would that make a good exhibit? You know, is that interesting? Also, you know, I subscribe to Babel magazine from England for linguists. And, you know, so there are many, many ideas. And I've been clipping articles from the Post and the Times since 2014 about words and language. And so they are very helpful with ideas for speakers too. You know, I learned who are experts, who are being quoted, who are, you know, or interesting authors. So it's just kind of being alive to what's going on, what's the conversation, and just serendipity sometimes too.
Yeah. Thank you. Janice asks, how do you repeat, or can you please repeat the name of the person you quoted from for the May 22nd in the Washington Post?
Nicole Krauss, Krauss.
Thank you. Jerry asks, how do you help kids with dyslexia learn to like to read?
Well, you know, we don't teach, but we had several speakers who are experts on teaching kids with dyslexia. We have a beacon about dyslexia that is very informative about the science and the brain science and neuroscience behind it, so we can enlighten people. You know, far be it from me to make suggestions, but there are great curricula out there. Orton Gillingham is one that are really effective at helping kids with dyslexia. So, you know, but I think what Planet Word does is by having these speakers who are experts and a lot of educators who come to our events, you know, they learn tips and techniques to use in their classrooms. And we have a book that comes to life, a novel called Fish in a Tree. And that is about a fourth grader who doesn't know she's dyslexic and why, you know, she just thinks she's stupid and she's not good at school until she has a substitute teacher who immediately recognizes the challenges that she has. And so, you know, that book, you know, might be very empowering to a child who visits Planet Word and is struggling with reading. Our beacon on dyslexia has been vetted by national experts, you know, to make sure that we got everything exactly right and cutting edge and, you know, but I had a mother write to me and say it was so important. She has a son with dyslexia and a son without, but she was able to bring both boys so that the son without dyslexia could understand better by viewing our beacon, you know, the challenges that his brother was facing and the origins of his dyslexia. So we do the best we can, but we're a museum. We do informal education. We don't teach.
Thank you. Yeah. David asks, you generously provided substantial resources to renovate the building and get the museum started. Did DC or other sources provide additional funds?
No.
No. Okay, thank you. Steve Shapiro has a statement and a question to you. He said, I lead the study of words group for Arlington Plus 55 group and also the Tech Hobbyist Club for Encore Learning. I'm curious how you see the emergence of AI, parens large language models, will impact the creating and use of language.
I think that it can assist, and as long as people turning to chatbots for assistance are critical and don't just assume that everything that they're reading is correct because, oh, it came from a computer or it came from the internet or whatever. You have to keep a certain amount of skepticism in mind, and you have to check sources. And I think some of the chat bots now, Perplexity is one I've heard of recently. It cites sources for information that it gathers. I guess if people and teachers don't think of new ways to make assignments, I do think that reading and writing will suffer. So, it's partly thinking of new ways that you have to act as a teacher, new kinds of lessons that a chatbot can't do, but maybe could be a partner in. So I want to have a large language model gallery at Planet Word. We have worked on it for about 2 years, but it has to be as participatory as the rest of the museum. And I haven't yet been presented with a really great idea for a gallery. So it hasn't happened, but I think it's important because large language models do tell us something about how language works, even though they're taking words and language and turning them into numbers and tokens and things. But basically, they are helping us predict the next word, to recognize patterns in language. And I think there's a lot to be learned just understanding how they work. I hope that was a helpful answer.
Thank you. Thank you, Anne. Robbie asked the question. He says, I don't know if Robbie is a man or a woman. Do I need to make a reservation to attend the museum since it's free to visit? And then added to it, I am in awe of what you have created and really want to come and see it.
Oh, thank you.
Fan.
So, when we are in our peak season, you really do have to make a reservation online to guarantee that you can come in when you want to. We're not always so busy all the time. Certain days and times there's usually no problem just walking in off the street. But I would recommend always going to the website and checking, because sometimes we're closed, like we have companies that buy out the museum. And so I wouldn't want you to show up and then the whole museum is closed to visitors. So it's always better to make a reservation.
Thank you. I also want to mention here, we had a tour of Planet Word last year, the year before. So we are planning to have another one. So keep your eye on the newsletters and the emails blasts that come out, because we're looking to put together a tour of the museum. Tom makes the comment, terrific. As an adult ESL teacher, I want my students to come. Bravo.
Please
There
do.
you go.
Our groups sell out very quickly because we can only accommodate a certain number like each semester. So make sure you keep on tabs on our website to make sure that you can get a slot.
Okay.
Because one thing too is not even, it's just even if it's children or not children, if the museum is way too busy, it decreases it devalues the experience of the other people. So we try to keep control over how many groups and how many kids. And so
Okay. We will keep that in mind, but we'll get out of Dan because we want to come. Eileen asked a question. Where's Eileen? Can you speak a little bit about the financial arrangements? Eileen asked, do you get any money from the federal government, from NGOs, and is there any parking for a bridal party? How about that?
So what was the question about the parking?
If there's a wedding there, is there sufficient parking in the area? Is that a problem?
Usually when there are weddings, they're at night and the museum is closed. And for weddings, people usually have valet parking. But there's a lot of parking ramps all around Planet Word. And the one right next door on 13th Street, they really want to have our business. In fact, they are staying open later than they were before. And the Washington Post garage is usually open. There's often parking on the street. It's, not much, but every once in a while.
Okay.
But was there another part to that question?
Well, I'm looking down. Can you scroll up a little bit, Patty, so that I can see the rest of Eileen's question?
Oh, about the funding.
The first part is a little bit more about the financial arrangements. Did you get a grant money from the federal government or from NGOs?
Well, for the restoration of the Franklin School, that was all mine.
Okay.
I paid for that. We have had one $40,000 grant from the IMLS, which basically is no longer. We had a language science station program that was brought to us by professors in linguistics, especially at the University of Maryland and Gallaudet and Howard and George Washington. They worked together on this program to bring science, linguistic science, to the general public, and they were funded by the NSF. We otherwise have not had any grants or funding. We raise money just from philanthropy and donations and the rental of our event spaces, and we have a gift shop, so we make some money there. We make some money from the restaurant, immigrant food that's located in our building. But basically we're on our own, and I think right now we are so lucky that we're not beholden to anybody, and and we can survive without worry.
Okay, good, thank you. Well, you preempted a little bit. Nancy just said, could you mention that the museum has a wonderful cafe? So everybody should know about that too.
Yeah, so one great thing about the Franklin School when I was looking for a space was that it had this corner of the ground floor with a door outside to 13th Street. So it was like wow, that could be a restaurant because then people could go in and out even if the museum is closed. And so then we had a restaurant broker who had helped us to find a restaurant that could fit in the space because originally I was going to have our own restaurant. I even had trademarked a name, Table and Contents. And I even had the menu like scrambled eggs, scrabbled eggs, and a Gutenberger, and I had all sorts of great ideas. But my first executive director, who is a very experienced museum person, said, "Anne, you are not going. We are not going to be in the restaurant business." And so we found Immigrant Food, which is like such a perfect partner for us because they serve fusion cuisines that are, bring together all different cultures and words and languages. So we are very happy.
That's wonderful. Another Nancy says, I have a favorite exhibit, Babies Learning Language, a miracle. Do you have a favorite exhibit?
Um, you know, I'm really I really love the library and the books that come to life. Um, but I also love word worlds with the paintbrushes, but they are giving us technical fits lately. We are in the middle of updating the brushes so they will work all the time. But I love how that works and how beautiful it is. And
Well, I would say, having been there, I think it's hard to have a favorite. I think each one is so unique and so interactive, just to
yeah,
build on. I think it's
thank
hard to
you.
have a favorite. Uh, um, well, Tom chimed in again. He said, all my questions have been answered. I'm earning you another bravo. So there you
That's
go.
so sweet. Thank you.
Susan makes a statement here. It seems to me that the word museum is actually a powerful statement about the power and use of multimedia to illustrate the power and use of words, but not necessarily reading per se. Movies, documentaries, all sorts of social media have become major sources of providing information and enabling discussions and understanding of issues. These allow learners of all preferred types, visual, audio, etc., to access information and entertainment. Could you add more of a focus on how those interested in books could move the contents to more accessible forms?
Well, like I said, the real core of our purpose of Planet Word is the phrase words matter. And so we're a little agnostic as to how you gain that knowledge and come to that belief. So we have screened a lot of films and we've got more coming. But I don't think, like with music, I try not to let there be mission creep. So I always remind people we are about lyrics and the words in song. We're not about rhythm. We're not about dance. Although there are times when those things are used to communicate messages. So, we have to be open to that too, that there can be other ways to communicate that don't use words precisely. But I guess I guess what I'm saying is communication is the important thing too. And how you do that, I don't care about, but there are plenty of other places that show films or, do these other things. So I got to make sure Planet Word is we're the only people who do anything to highlight words and language. And so we don't want to forget that,
Okay.
because there are other organizations do a really great job. And even like Shakespeare, we made a conscious decision not to have a Shakespeare gallery or something, but Shakespeare comes up in every single gallery of ours because it's inescapable. So, he's in the word wall, he's in oratory, you know, even in our advertising copywriting gallery, because so many people have used to be or not to be in their ads. But we're not going to focus on Shakespeare. We're not experts. We don't have any real curators at Planet Word. Like at every other museum, there would be many curators who would be experts in their field. And we don't really have that. We bring in advisors who help us and vet things for us, but we don't make any claim to be experts on anything.
Okay, good. Bonnie asked the questions. Are you planning to open another museum elsewhere in the United States?
No.
Okay. Good. I have a question about the title, Planet Word. Did you come up with that? Was that always the working title, or did you evolve into that?
Evolved. I had about 50 different names that I would keep on a notepad by my bed and, wake up in the middle of the night. Oh, how about this? And then early on, we actually did focus groups. And they were with kids, 10 to 12-year-olds, boys and girls, and their parents, 4 different focus groups. And it was over 2 days. And the first day, I came with what I really loved, which was called Reading Revolution. No, wrong. Reading Republic. And the negative reaction I got from the kids was like, okay. They said, we don't like to read. Republic, it sounds like Republicans. So I went away and came back the next day with another choice, which was Planet Word. And they just loved it. They were just like, yes, because words are universal. And so that's the origin of why we are Planet Word.
Well, it's very memorable as a name too, I think. So you had this idea in 2017, right?
Well, really 2013.
Through 2013. So now we're 12 years in. So has it blossomed beyond your possible imagination? I mean, it's one thing to have a kernel of an idea, but how this has flourished is just amazing. I'm just asking for your reaction to it, what it has turned into from a kernel of an idea.
Yeah, no, I'm very happy. Especially happy at how much fun people have here, which I never really thought about, and especially intergenerational, like grandparents and grandchildren. I love that. Kids who come back numerous times, I just, we wanted this to be fun and playful, but I was actually shocked at how much fun people have, and I'm very rewarded by that and by their reactions and the returning visitors especially.
Well, that's terrific. So, well, you got a lot of future fans, now that they've heard all about it. So, and again, we will organize a tour on our side. But Anne, this is just great. So thank you so much for making yourself available to us and sharing all about it, especially your videos, that people could really see what you're talking about.
I
So
hope that helped. Yeah.
thank you.
It
I
was my pleasure.
I see all sorts of things going up on the screen, hearts and thumbs up and everything to tell you how everybody felt about it. So thank you so much. This was just a pleasure.
Thank you. I hope to meet all of you someday over here.
Well, I'll be there tonight, so I'll come over and say hello.
Oh, please do.
Also, I wanted to remind everybody to take the survey at the end of this presentation so that we can share with Anne your thoughts about it. And
that would be great.
With that, I will close us out. So thank you very much. And boy, you used up all the time, man. You said I don't really have that much to talk about. And wow,
good
so
questions.
engaged.
There are a lot of good questions too.
A lot of good questions. So thank you again for very much. Goodbye, everybody. See you at Planet Word.